Hello, everyone. This is the Artsy Fartsy band. Look at us. How artsy and fartsy are we?
Crazy Artsy Fartsy.
Really artsy and fartsy. So, welcome, everyone. I'm Pablo Stanley, and I'll be hosting this event or monthly event that is called the Artsy Fartsy Talks. The worst. And each month, I get to chat with different makers around the world. Really interesting people, people that I admire, that we at our team at Blush we admire, and we just want to get to know more about their work, their creative process, and just learn where their inspiration comes from. And by the way, we'll also be doing a QA at the end. Actually, this is the one. We're going to be doing a QA session at the end, and you can start just asking questions at slide.do./ Brittany. Oh my God, I just said everything incorrectly. But it's actually, there are two links, slido.com/Brittany. That sounds a little bit easier. So yeah, you can start putting your questions there. You can even vote for other questions. So yeah, like go ahead and do that. Actually, let me put it here too. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and like I love to actually know, where are you guys watching from? If you are watching on YouTube, because this is being streamed in different places, by the way. I just wanted to let you know about this. And like, if you are on YouTube, you can leave comments there and we can read them. If you are on LinkedIn too, I think we can read the comments here too. So if you want to ask some questions there too, but if you want to vote on your questions, go to Slido. And today we have Brittny Bowering. What's that?
I actually should change my Instagram name to be my last name, because that's from ages ago. But it's Brittni Bowering is my name.
Bowering.
Yeah.
And I asked that because of your Instagram handle. I was like, maybe the artist name is different.
I guess so. I never thought of it that way. It's an artist name. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's your influencer artist name.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell the world a little bit about you, Brittny. Well, Brittny is a Canadian content strategist, and you facilitate workshops, and also you're a comedian. And well, you're from Canada, but right now you're living in Berlin, which means that over there is like what, 8:30 p.m. What is it over there?
8 p.m. over here. Yeah.
p.m. And as I understand, it's time you're drinking your wine. You're just like getting ready for the night.
Usually, see, this is my usual time to drink wine, but for this chat, I decided I would wait and I'd have my wine after, because I want to stay fresh.
Yeah. Keep it profesh. Yes. And well, Brittny, she helps her different clients develop powerful content strategies that really bring their brand to life, and just like clearly differentiate them in their market. And well, again, Brittny, thank you so much for joining us in this Artsy Fartsy Talk. And today, the actual name of the event and what we're going to be talking about is how to build a big brand with little content, with a little bit of content. And actually, just like after this, I would love to actually get to know more about you, Brittny. Like, how do you get started in the content world?
So, gosh, this is a kind of a tough one, because I kind of fell into it a little bit. I mean, I come from a background of marketing and communications. I then found myself working in advertising for doing a lot of ads, video advertising, actually, for a lot of kind of tech startups, which is kind of an interesting little space. Then I fell in love with that world and started working kind of more specifically for those kinds of people and helping them sort of spread their message. And I sort of slowly transitioned into this world of content, and I kind of fell in love with it because I just realized how powerful it can be, and how, how fun it actually can be to work in this environment and in this industry. So yeah, I've been, for the past year, I've been freelancing, living in Berlin, doing content strategy. I also do workshop facilitation stuff, and then I do my weird little comedy thing on the side. So yeah, I guess that sums it up.
Yeah. So actually, well, sums it up. Like we got to go deeper into that. Oh yeah, and I'm also a comedian, by the way. That sounds pretty like a big thing. So I really want to know more about that. Like how like number one, like how has comedy impacted like your career, or what you do?
I have to say that I find tossing in that I do stand-up comedy a really good party trick, because I come across at like, especially in Berlin's very cool, and it's full with all these really like cool creative people. And when people first meet me, they always think that I'm just this like really kind of bubbly sort of classic Brittany character. So when I throw that in, they're like, whoa, that's interesting. So maybe that is why I even started doing it. Because I was like, I need something to differentiate myself. Just kidding. That's not true. I have always been a comedy lover, and I just kind of started doing it because I started going to tons of shows, and I was like, I want to try this. I want to do it. So I started doing it. And I actually found, to your question, Pablo, that literally almost instantly after I started doing comedy regularly and was on stage, I found that the way that it impacted my work was actually quite surprising, like how impactful it actually was. I started to feel more, confident in front of people. I started to be able to really like read a room quite well. That's one thing that I absolutely think is kind of very valuable in the kind of work that I do. I'm always with clients. I'm in workshop spaces a lot. So being able to like tell what the vibe is in the room is a kind of a key one. And then also being able to like communicate and deliver a message that's succinct and hopefully somewhat entertaining sometimes.
I've actually heard different people, actually product managers that I work with in the past, they have told me about that trick about like, hey, I actually joined improv. I don't know if you heard about like other people just like joining improv, and that it helps them to be like, with the skills that you learn there, they have found them helpful, just like in like selling their ideas and talking to people and all that. So like, do you think there's a cross between the real world and the stage?
I think that the way that the stage works in a really strange way, like it's almost like a heightened sense of reality, right? So everything's harsher. Everybody reacts a little bit more intensely. So if you can figure out how to like kind of manage a stage and manage an audience, then you're in really good shape, I think, for dealing with people like in just a regular, more human setting. I think that it's a pretty interesting one, and it's what I'm kind of fascinated by it. So I always like to sort of figure out, how you can come onto a stage and people look at you and they have their first impression of who you are and what you're about. And the beautiful thing that I love to do is sort of take that and just sort of maybe surprise them or change their mind, and I feel like I've been, I know this is going to sound maybe a little bit silly, but as sort of a girl with blonde hair who like laughs a lot and smiles a lot, people are often, expecting something from me that, I don't really necessarily want to deliver. I like to be, I like to say intelligent things, and I like to come in and surprise people with that. So I think it's kind of a fun, again, a little party trick that I like to use. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up a show that I just recently started watching, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So I'm sure that you're like a fan of that show too.
Yeah, just a little bit. I love that show. I love that show so much. Yeah. Although I have to say that I do find like into the, like more, once you get into the show a little bit further, there are quite a few moments where I'm like, God, like get down off of the table. Like, why are you on the table at someone else's wedding doing a comedy routine? It's so aggravating, but I do love that show a lot.
Yes. There are some parts where it's like, okay, this is like, clearly fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, talking about the real world and fiction, we found I think we have a photo of you
Oh
right
God,
before
yeah.
you started working on comedy,
Just right
and I
before.
would love if you could tell us a little bit about this photo. What is going on first?
Oh, it's even worse than in the small form when it's large. Okay. So this is actually, there are so many pictures of me at this, like when I was young, just falling asleep in really strange locations. And it's kind of interesting because it's actually, it says a lot about, I think, my character and kind of who I am, because I'm very much, I never want to miss anything. Like I have massive FOMO all the time. I grew up with it, it's always followed me everywhere. And like when I was a kid, I just never wanted to go to bed because I thought the fun stuff's going to happen when I'm asleep. I just know it. So yeah, I've always wanted to be around the people, around what was happening, the fun, the party, so pretty much it's the same today, except for I love to be in bed early. That's my whole jam these days.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for letting us the context of that photo. And now
Yeah.
I think we have you have a presentation for us. I think you're going to tell us a bit about your tips to build a great brand with a little content. But I shouldn't spoil it, and I should let you be the one who chose us this. So should we do this?
Let's do this. Why
Okay,
wouldn't we,
awesome.
right? Okay,
So
cool.
you can share your
Take it
screen and
away.
yeah, take it away. This is you.
Okay, I'm going to move myself over there. Okay, so first of all, the colors are a little off. I have to say, I don't know why. Okay, but sometimes in live events, you don't have time to correct things like this. So this is, yeah, thanks so much, Pablo, for having me. I was very, very flattered to be asked to be on one of your Artsy Fartsy live streams. I think that's very cool. So yeah, this is, by the way, just quickly before we jump in, this little bad boy, this illustration here, that's me. All right. That's me work as a workshop facilitator, just given the old energizer, given the old energy. All right. Sorry. Let's just move on. Okay. You guys. Oh, good. Okay. It switched. Okay. So I have a short presentation for you guys, a little talk about how to build a big brand with a little bit of content. And this is the reason that I wanted to talk about this is that it's really something that I get asked about a lot. So whether it's, a company that has just a small team for marketing and content, whether it's someone who's a freelancer who's like, I want to introduce some content to my branding, and I really want to kind of build a little bit of a brand around myself, or whether, you work in a company and you are just looking to kind of like put your toes out there a little bit. Is that a thing? You put your toes in the water? I don't know. You want to kind of like splash around in the content space because you know how valuable it is. Obviously, you don't want to have to spend your whole life building content strategies and developing content and rolling it out and distributing. It's a lot of work. So the thing that I get asked the most is, how do I make my content powerful enough so that it goes further without, me having to make tons of it and be literally throwing it out there constantly. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because it's something that I get asked about a lot. Okay, let's move on to, right. Why? So why would you ever want to build a brand? I guess probably if you're watching this live stream, you're most likely interested in it. But I'd love to hear actually in the comments, if you can add into the comments what you're excited about this chat today, or what you hope to learn, or some reason that you want to actually get into content for yourself, or whether it's for your business or what have you. I'm not sure how quickly the chat will jump in there, but either way, we'll keep going. So the reason why I think this is so important is basically content is, I think for myself anyway, I can only really speak for myself and for people I know well, but it's really one of the best ways to harness leads, to move up in your career, to find new opportunities, to really advance and kind of basically, sorry, I keep getting distracted because it says that it's failing to connect to the server, but we are on, right? Everything's fine? I can't, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to keep going unless, okay,
we
we're
are
good.
on. You're good. You're good.
Okay, sorry. There's
Sorry
a weird
about
pop-up on the screen. Okay, I'm sorry.
There has been
I'll just,
no fault here. So you're being good all the time.
Okay, I'll just keep going. Okay, so yeah, the reason why I think it's so important is that just the amount of opportunities that you can get by building a brand around yourself, creating a personal brand, which I have to say, I do sometimes cringe a little bit when it comes to people talking about personal branding, because I used to have this kind of real aversion to that term, personal brand, because I thought, it's really self-absorbed. It's really like egotistical. If I do really good work, people will notice, and my career will blossom, and I will have all of these great opportunities that will come my way. And I kind of realized that actually, if you do a lot of great work, that's phenomenal, and that it should be your focus. But if you're not sharing what you're doing, not a lot of people are going to know that you're doing it, and you will definitely lose some opportunities potentially for your career, for your business. So that is why I think it's so important that at least you do a little bit of branding for yourself professionally. Okay. Enough about why you should do it. You guys all probably know that already. Here are my 5 must-haves when it comes to developing content to build a big brand. So developing small amounts of content to build something big around yourself. And you might be surprised, but none of my 5 must-haves have anything to do with hacking an algorithm, with using a certain amount of hashtags, with, figuring out all the analytics and analyzing everything super like nitty-gritty. It has nothing to do with that, because I'm a true believer in the fact that if you don't have anything good, important, interesting to say, no matter how much you hack the algorithm and you figure out what hashtags to use, you're not going to get anywhere, or at least you're not going to get where you want to be. So I'm going back to basics. This is what I'm all about. I'm all about setting a foundation of really solid content, because that's where you need to start. And later, once you have everything down and you figured out what you want to talk about and how to talk about it, that's when you can start kind of hacking the process a little bit. But even then, who's got the time, right? Okay, okay, great. Let's go to the next slide. Oh gosh, okay. Number 1, personality. So through your content, whether it's videos, whether you're writing blogs, whether you're on Instagram, it's actually really, really important to show people who you are. And I know that sounds kind of obvious, but I think a lot of people are nervous about putting themselves out there, which is completely understandable. I really, really do get that. But the thing is that people want to work with people in general, right? So it's okay to have a personality. It's okay to show a little bit of who you are through your writing, or through your videos, or through even just like little status updates, or whatever it is, whatever kind of content that you're putting out there. One of the things that I find, I get asked this a lot actually about like how I feel about the fact that I'm very much myself. On LinkedIn, I'm completely myself. I make jokes. I'm like very silly. Same with on Instagram. That's how I am, even though a lot of my work comes through both of those platforms. And people are like, aren't you nervous that people are going to think you're being too silly, that they can't take you seriously, and you're not going to be, knowledgeable enough or an expert? And I think it's literally the perfect filter. Because if people see who I am and my personality, and they're like, "Ooh, I don't know about this girl," then I literally don't want to work with them. That's like it's the perfect filter of the clients that I would love to spend my time with. And so I would definitely challenge you to. Oh, there's Fabian. Hey, oh, thanks, Fabian. That's nice. Yeah, so I would just encourage you to really put yourself out there a little bit, at least, just piece by piece. It's hard at first, but you can do it, and it's really worth it. The second one is to focus on conversations. So one thing that I find a lot of people, especially if you're working in like a technical space and you are trying to put out content around your expertise, you'll find that you're really sort of being careful about what you're putting out there, because you feel like you need to touch every single point, make sure that everything is super solid, and all of a sudden a blog post turns into, you know, a research article. And that's not really the point of content that's going to build a brand. The content that you put out there should be starting conversations, not ending them. So that's what you need to think about. Like, I want to put out enough information that it's intriguing and it's, you know, valuable, but also I want people to have questions. That's okay. If people, you know, are come back to you after they read a post that you wrote and they say, well, that's not exactly true because in this scenario, yada, yada, yada. That's the perfect opportunity for you to engage with them and prove to them that you really do know what you're talking about, and you'd love to have a conversation with them about that. So your content should focus on starting conversations. And, you know, if we are talking about like algorithmically, you know, engagement, comments, those kinds of things, that's what you really want to go for. Like, that is what is going to make your content go much further without you having to work too hard. So focus on conversations. The third one is value. So I have a lot of, I have this conversation a lot with people where they are like, well, you know, I want to give out a lot of value. I want to, you know, provide value to my audience or to my community, to my industry. But I also still want to have something to sell my clients, right? I still want to have some things in my back pocket, you know, that I can pull out when I need to, that, you know, that will be all exciting. And they'll be like, well, thank God we hired Brittany because we didn't know she knew about this. So there's two things that I say to that all the time. First of all, or actually, sorry, people are worried about competitors, right? So if I put out all my value and I share everything I know, my competitors will see that and they'll be like, oh, Brittany's doing that. Well, I guess we should start doing that too. I have this conversation all the time. And the one thing that I have to say, you know, I think people don't understand is when you put out really valuable stuff and you give away a lot of the things that you know, and you focus on helping people, two things happen. One, you are positioned as an expert above your competitors, right? You're the one talking about it. You're the one talking about it first. You're the one giving it away. So you're seen now as the expert in that field. Secondly, it's going to, I know this might not seem like a positive, but it's going to force you to keep going, right? Keep learning, keep striving to be better, right? So you're going to kind of you'll be like, I said this makes me positioned as the expert, and then you got to climb back up there, learn a little bit more, and you're sort of like climbing this cool ladder where you're challenging yourself and you're becoming sort of the best in your industry. So don't fear your competitors. Don't fear, you know, giving it all away and not having anything else to give. I promise you've got more to give. So focus on value always. Next slide. An opinion. So I don't know about you guys, but I think one of the worst things is when someone, you know, when you're like asking for someone's opinion on something and they don't have an opinion and they're like, well, you do or this or that, or maybe this. It's like the most aggravating thing ever where you're like, just stand up, just have a flippin' opinion, you know? Maybe I'm on my own on that one, I don't know. But either way, having an opinion through your content on social media, if you want to build a brand around yourself, if you want to be a voice that's going to be heard, even if you're just a small little person in a really big pond, having an opinion is one of the best ways to do that. And having an opinion that isn't shared by everybody else in your industry is also super important. So don't be afraid of standing outside of, you know, the majority of what people are saying and talking about. Obviously, you don't want to just have an opinion for the sake of having an opinion, or saying, you know, start saying ridiculous things that you don't believe or that aren't true just to basically get attention. That's the worst. It's called clickbait and it's horrible. But taking a stand on something that you believe in, questioning things, you know, even if you don't necessarily know, but you could definitely still question the norm that everybody seems to be, you know, or everyone seems to agree is right. Those are the kinds of things that will get conversations started and really help your content reach many more people. And gain some interest, right? You'll garner some interest from people as well, because you're now a thought leader instead of a thought follower. So opinion, take a stand on something. That's also a really big one. And the last one, everybody's talking about it, authenticity. I feel like when I say this, I just am a full meme. I'm like, oh, be authentic. But I do think that, I think it's interesting because on the internet, I think people feel like they can hide really easily, like they can really kind of say whatever they want, or kind of act in a strange way that isn't actually true to them, and no one will know. But I actually really do believe that online, on the internet, people can tell so quickly whether you're being authentic or not, whether what you're saying is actually what you believe, whether you're trying to be this like goofy persona, but you're actually more of a serious, quiet person. It comes across right away, and you can tell. So, if you see, a YouTuber or someone on Instagram and you're like, wow, this person's, I like their vibe, like I like what they're doing. That's great. And you can like that. And you can even take a few bits and pieces from it, but never try to emulate someone else's who's being really successful, doing what they're doing, being their authentic self. So it's so important that you be who you are and just stay true to that. I know I sound like I'm being like a preacher right now, but I just think that online, we need more authenticity. We need a lot more of it, because there's a lot of garbage being put out into the world. So if we can have a little bit more authenticity, a little bit more realness, I think that is, it goes a long way, and people recognize it and people love it. That's why people really respond well on these. Recently, there's been tons of like LinkedIn posts where people are really being, really authentic, and they're talking about their maybe their failures or their career path, and they're being really honest about it. And those posts are going insane because people respond to that kind of stuff, So being authentic is maybe the most important thing, the most important must-have. Okay, the end. I also put a nice little illustration from Blush on that little piece of cake there for you. I would have used more if I could have. But if I had the time to add these lovely illustrations in. I'm really loving Blush, by the way. I know probably everybody here already uses it, but still, I do really love it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about anything specific, of course, send me a message, and you can follow me on Instagram and ask me stuff there too. I'm always available for a little chat. But those are my 5 must-haves. What do you think, Pablo? What do you think?
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for this, Brittany. This is, I don't know, pretty refreshing. There's a lot of people just like talking here, just like putting different things. Actually, I just realized that you can actually show stuff here on this app that we're using. For example, here, Jacob says, very inspirational. Thank you so much. And also, yum, cake. Right.
Yes.
and also,
very cool, this feature.
Yes, and Score saying hello. And also, Hillary's preacher. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone for being so active there. And also, some people actually started voting on the questions there. And before, just like one last, let's give people 2 more minutes. You can ask your questions there. And before people ask their questions, I'm going to ask my own question about your last point, actually, about being authentic. And I think I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think it's like people have that BS filter. Boom, right away, they know if you're trying to trick them, and they instantly find if you're being authentic or not. I do, and as someone that creates videos and stuff, I think I try to be authentic. I try to be myself, right? But I have come to realize that after doing it more and more, like you start going deeper. Like I don't know. I question this for myself. Am I creating this character of myself? Am I just amplifying this version of me? And it's like an ideal version, and a version of me that I want people to see. And sometimes it's a little bit hard for me because I want to be authentic, but sometimes being authentic also means, well, you're sad, like more in this last years, it hasn't been the best of the years. So sometimes
Yeah.
actually when I'm authentic, I'm like, hey guys, I'm just not having a good time right now. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, like I suppose my question is like, how do you deal with that, where it's like you still kind of want to try to, well, at least I have found that I you still want to try to picture this ideal person of, like, at least like there's a real part of you, but there is still some character around it,
Yeah.
right? or
Yeah.
or I don't know, like I don't know my question what it is, but like how do you handle like when you're not in the mood but you still want to create content, you want to be out there, and how do you keep yourself being authentic even when people might be like, yo, who is this Brittany? I thought you were like happier than
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I guess the one thing that I would say is I really do give myself permission to not create or not go on stage, or if I'm not really feeling it. But like I think that that's really important, because I think there's this pressure that we all feel to keep driving, like always making content, always putting stuff out there, always doing our best. Sorry, a little, not such a dry cough, just a regular. Anyway, I won't make.
Hold on, I gotta go get my mask.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that it is also important to show your authentic self. I think that the thing with the way that I feel about, because when you said like I feel like I'm portraying like a character of myself, that is exactly how I feel as well. 100%. Like I always feel like Brittany on camera is like she's like 15 to 20% more ridiculous than in real life. That's sort of what I'm always going for, or what seems to happen automatically when I get onto a stage or when a camera goes on. But I do really try to be honest if I'm like having a bad day. And I found that people really react well to that. So I do try to include that a lot. But on another side, I often find, and I don't even know if this is the right thing to do or not, but I often find that if I'm, having a bad day, or if I'm just feeling down in the dumps, I'm like, I don't even want to go anywhere near social media or like, I'm steering clear of it,
Yeah. You just like, I like how you said it, of like allowing yourself to say like, hey, no, I'm going to take a break. I don't have to be just like putting myself out there all the time. So I need some time for myself.
Exactly.
That's great advice. And I think also like even just like sometimes like people appreciate when you are being honest too, when, hey, if you're feeling a little bit down,
they totally do. Yeah.
show a little bit of that too. And I think also just like makes you realize that, hey, this is a human, this is a real human being, right?
Exactly. I think we need to every now and again break down that wall of like, oh, this isn't just Brittany, Brittany who's like always on Instagram smiling and doing happy stuff, She has bad days.
Yeah. And so let me turn on here, and we have questions for you. So with people have started voting on these questions, and a lot of questions are also coming from the chat. So we're gonna get into those later. But the first one is like, how do you stimulate your creativity for content ideas?
Okay. It's so interesting. Like so what I usually do if I'm at this zone where I'm like, I'm all out of ideas, and it happens, like usually I'm a very creative person in the moment, if that makes sense. So my creative process is very much like, oh, I have an idea, I need to do it right now. And I just sort of like, it comes to me and I execute on it. But every now and again, I'm sitting there and I'm like, geez, I've got nothing. There's nothing going on. And so what I usually do, which I think really, really helps, is I think about the audiences that I care about, the people in my industry and my community that I want to engage with, communicate with, whoever I want to, whoever's attention I want to get. And I start to think about who they are, what their challenges are, the things that would really help them in their lives. And every single time I have like 4 to 5 brand new great ideas. So that's always what I'm trying to, whenever I don't have like any ideas, it's because probably I've been really busy with something and I haven't had time to like the space to think. So I stop and I think about how I could serve my audience a little bit better. And I even have a little workshop that I do where I'm just kind of defining who my audiences are, what their challenges are, and how I could help them with those challenges through content. Oh, you're muted, Pablo.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for yes. Okay, I'm back. I'm back, baby. Okay, cool. So hold on. There are more people, more questions, a lot of questions. But some people actually, if you want to vote, there's the link. Hold on. Let me put the link. It's a Slido. Slide.do/Brittni. That is not easy to say. Anyway.
I know, right? I think they thought it was going to be great. And then, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to get a little bit vulnerable. And the question is, were you afraid to leave your last job?
I was terrified. I was so scared. I put it off also for a really long time because of that. I kind of knew that I was looking for something, my next challenge. But what I found actually, and I learned this, and I've been trying to talk about it because I think it's so interesting, is I am someone who gets really attached to people and to the company that I'm working for. And just like whatever it is I'm working on, I get really personally attached to it. To the point, like in my last job, to the point where I didn't even know who I was without that job. I was like, what would I even do? Like I couldn't even figure it. Like I couldn't imagine, which sounds so weird. But I really had a hard time imagining what my life would be like if I left. And then when I did end up leaving, it was, basically, I ended up leaving. And then I very quickly realized that I had been like putting my own career values and goals kind of on the back burner, a bit on hold, while I was kind of working on, someone else's dreams and whatever, which is totally fine if you have the same vision and you share a similar value set, right? But I'd realized that a lot of things that I valued were being kind of put to the side. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I would ever give to younger Brittany is that make sure you figure out what it is that you value and what you want out of your career and your stuff, so that you're focused on that when it comes to making big decisions, and not what this company is focused on and where they're going. Where are you going? And that's, for me, that was a huge learning experience.
I just recently went through a similar experience, and I have to say it was one of the scariest times in my life. It was just like nerve-wracking, and I couldn't sleep. But at the same time, it was like now. By the way, I'm still scared. Like I'm always.
Yeah, of course.
this is
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Never goes away. The fear and the uncertainty never goes away. But I look back and I'm just like so glad that I made that call. I would say that for me, it was a little bit like it was also like having people like that support group around, just like the team that I was joining, like we were starting our own thing. So like having that just really helped me just like be sure about that decision. Yeah. But it is like, even with that, it was just like nerve-wracking. So kudos to you and just like making that decision. We have one more question that I really love, and well, actually, two more questions, and one of them has more votes, but I'll let you choose which one. And it is: do you need to, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is consistency? So I suppose that's easy because they're only asking for a number.
I'll just give a number and then walk away. That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
So that is so okay. I think so. It is important. It is quite important, but I think not for the reasons that you might think. So a lot of people, when it comes to getting more followers and getting more subscribers, consistency is really, really important because of the algorithm. I feel like this is big anonymous character, the algorithm. You don't want to upset the algorithm, but I think it's important for another reason. And I think that we need to stop thinking so much about algorithms and hacking social media platforms, and start thinking a little bit more about what it is that we want to get out of our content, and how important is consistency to that, right? So if you want to harness leads from content, then consistency is important, but it doesn't mean that you have to post every day, or you have to put something out there every 3 times a week, or even once a week. You don't really have to. But if you're putting something really powerful out there regularly, somewhat often, that's enough. If it's thoughtful and you really put a bit of heart into it, and that is actually enough, as long as it's happening regularly. Because the one thing that I think people don't realize enough about content is that it's actually also just a tool to be like, hey, I'm Brittany. How are you? This is here's something that I wrote, but this is not mostly, but this is somewhat just a reminder that I exist and that I'm, available for work, or I have, you can hire me for things like this. I'm talking about this kind of subject, so probably you could reach out to me for things like this. Like, it's a really great tool to just remind people about you, right? And it's funny, it's very, very powerful that way. So I think that consistency is important for that reason more.
Okay, so the 1 to 10.
Okay, 1 to 10, I'd say 7.5.
7.5. That's pretty good. That's pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And related to this, let's go to the last question. I think there were some votes on this one. That I think it goes with consistency and with the audience that you're talking. Lauren asked, do you need to know your niche or audience before you start building a brand?
That's a really great question. Really good question, Lauren. So I would say that no, but pretty quickly after. So I think it's definitely okay to be passionate about something and to just start, right? I think it's so important to just get going, right? Just even if you're not sure who you're talking to yet, you'll find out soon enough. If what you're putting out there is, again, thoughtful and valuable, or it's coming from a place of kind of passion of yours, very quickly you'll get responses, and then you'll figure out who those people are. So I think as soon as possible, you want to figure out who your audience is, but I think that you can absolutely start if you're like, I've got no idea who I'm talking to yet.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Don't wait for stuff to happen. Don't wait I'm going to start once I do this. No, start already. The niche, the audience, all of that is going to come when you start creating stuff. You're not going to find that audience unless you have something.
Exactly.
So I would always choose, and by the way, it's gonna suck in the beginning.
For sure.
Your numbers are going to be low in the beginning, but that's how you start with anything. So
absolutely.
And again, going back to what you were saying about being consistent, but you gotta keep consistent. And that audience is going to be talking about you. They're going to be recommending you, and then eventually, also you're going to grow that audience. And if you are just being like talking about, like being consistent on the things that you talk about too, also that the people are going to appreciate that, and they're going to be, I suppose, like going to be recommending you a little bit more. Anyway,
Yeah,
well, the questions were for you,
totally.
and I'm responding to. And
No, that's good. That's what the people want, Pablo. Give them what they
yes.
want.
And by the way, a lot of great comments from different people. Lily, just like thanking you for being authentic about your authenticity. Oh my God, it is very
Thanks,
inspiring.
Lily.
Yeah,
That's so nice.
and also BJ, who is visiting us from India. That's so cool.
Hey
Yeah.
there.
Well, Brittany, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure, just like hearing everything you have to share. Like you gave us, you didn't only inspire us, but you also gave us like a plan, like an action plan, like
Yeah,
steps, things to do.
practical.
So to everyone, we do this every month. We do this Artsy Fartsy Talk where we get to talk with amazing, talented people like Brittany. And if you want to know more about Brittany, you should follow Brittany on Instagram, Brittni Bow. Also, your hi, Brittany. I love that you have that domain. By the way, that's awesome. That's
It's only
awesome.
because of the spelling of my name. I got lucky on that one.
Yes. And is there anything else that where people can find you, Brittany, that they should know about?
That's pretty much it. I would say if you can reach out to me on Instagram and LinkedIn, and on my website you can sign up. You can add your email to find out about fun, exciting things I've got planned that are coming up pretty soon.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Brittany, for joining us. You
It was
should
my
follow again.
pleasure.
Follow Brittany, smash that follow button. And hopefully you get to join us next month. We still don't know who we're going to be talking to, but it's going to be another Artsy Fartsy Talk. And this is, by the way, brought to you by Blush.design, where you can create different illustrations from different artists around the world. And actually, some of your illustrations were also from Blush, right, Brittany?
Yes, sir. I love it. I just love using it. I go around there and play with it, I'm changing their pants and their shirts. I'm having a great old time.
That's cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for. I love every time you share something and there's an illustration from an artist from Blush. So, thank you so much, Brittany. Everyone, thank you for joining us. And that's it. That's it for today. We did it.
Yay!
Yay. Okay. Bye bye.
Thanks, Pablo.